Does that make sense? So it's like, I always look at this like, oh, I'm on probation. The prison door is open. I can leave simply by walking out, but I'm not quite certain about walking out, right? If there was a moment where my walking out of the prison door was completely certain in my own mind, the whole thing would just occur and I'd have that experience, like I've already had that experience, but you know, like I would have that experience in my mind that showed me what's on the other side of the prison door. Right? It's like he says in the course, once the prison door is open, the person who's been in prison for a long time doesn't just get up and walk out happily. They sit there for a minute and contemplate what's happening, right? There's a dumbfounded kind of like, oh, the door's open. Shit, I can go. And you've been so long, your spirit and your will has been broken for so long that your prison has become kind of comfortable to you. It's become what you know. You've forgotten the outside world, right? So in order to remember the outside world better and to help you repatriate into what's beyond the prison door, you have to begin a process of letting go of all the things about the prison that you think are desirable or undesirable or whatever that give you an association as being an inmate. Okay? You're not a prisoner except by your own choice. You're not a prisoner except by your own choice. And as soon as you're ready to accept that, you can get up and walk out the door, right? The prison door is open. You can leave simply by walking out. That's the true thing. That's a state of mind. That's an action that occurs in the mind when you no longer want the world. It's like, hang on a minute, I'm on a journey of the soul. There's endless and infinite, countless realities of experience that are out there on the journey of my soul as I transit back through the dimensions and the spheres of creation. And yet I've grown accustomed to this third dimensional little mud ball spinning in space, and I'm terrified to leave it behind. What about all these people that I love? And what about all this other, another? It's like, well, at some point you're going to leave it all behind anyway. Let's be about it. What does it matter whether it's today, tomorrow, or 10 years or 20 years? Well, I'd like to see my grandchildren grow up, and I'd like to, well, then if that's the case, you're in the wrong Zoom meeting. Like literally, go be about that and watch your grandchildren grow up. Because when the voice speaks to you from the sky and says, come on, it's time to go, you can't point to your grandchildren and go, just give me 5 minutes. Thy will be done. That's the whole thing in this. Thy will be done, right? I've got to wipe my agenda clean. I've got to wipe my slate clean. When God calls, I answer. I'm, yes, sir, here I am. That's it. I've got nothing else going on other than just listening for that call. Right? Now, that call's universal. It's going on all the time, everywhere. But when do I want to hear it? When do I want to hear it? Somehow and somewhere, that call has brought you to this Zoom meeting, to the Course in Miracles, to your spiritual interests. It's brought you to a place where you're starting to resonate in a frequency of hearing. And maybe you're starting to hear some stuff and have experiences of things that are aligning or are lining up with the subject matter of your salvation. Right? Those things are perhaps beginning to occur, and I hope they are. And they're going to bring you deeper and deeper into a step that you're going to take beyond the jail door. You know, it's like get up off your ass, off the bench, and at least start moving towards the door. And you stick your head out and you're like, oh, don't know, I'll take a few steps back and I'll sit here for a minute and think about that. If I go out there, I've got to go and get a job. I might meet someone and then there'll be responsibilities. In here, I get 3 meals a day. Pretty cool, you know. It's funny, really. Like the whole situation is contained within the, oh, Heidi's flashing in and out. You're flashing, Heidi.
She's selling some internet stuff. Can you tell them yourself? I don't know if you're.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. You're
Yeah,
like
it's
popping
just,
in
it
and
kind
out
of
of
keeps
reality
freezing
all the
and
time. Yeah.
so I'm trying to keep it stabilized. I've been moving around my house.
Are you having an earthquake or something there?
No, but if I did, I'd be safe because I'm in my basement. Maybe. I don't know.
No, earthquake, you run out in the
No,
street.
yeah, runways. Yeah, that's right.
Right. You
That's the
don't,
one
you don't
place
go
you're
in the
not safe
basement.
in the basement.
Yeah. Cyclone in the basement.
We don't.
You have to get your natural disasters sorted out. Do a bit of
I
Old
know.
Testament, and there's plenty of them in there. Pestilence and fire and flood and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So
We don't have many here to prepare for, but
you're lucky. We have all sorts of things here. It's bizarre, isn't it? So I wanted to talk about our Zoom meetings and about the group and everything like that. You've probably noticed some of you, I've removed about 20 people from the messenger group, the notification group. And I actually had a bit of feedback on it from people that have said, hey, you took me out of the group, from people that never have attended a meeting, you know, and it's like in our meetings, the whole thing is to become fully participant, fully connected, fully, you know, engaged in it on every level, not just to sit back and be a bystander. And I even had somebody say to me that, oh, I like to just watch the meetings afterwards when they're posted. I don't like to join in with others. And it's like the whole point of this is to join in with others. The whole point of this is exposure. And so in the interest of not wanting to cast pearls before swine, I deleted a whole bunch of people and cut out the deadwood. So that allows energetically a space or an opening for whatever might come after that. But it's like, I'm not about, like Jesus says in the Course, you know, you have to believe in those who you give your learnings to. There's no point in sitting down, spending weeks and weeks and hours and months with somebody who you think's not really into it. Why would you do that? Someone who's not really interested. You guys will find this out for yourselves when you start teaching in a proper way. You know, like in a formal sense, if you do that, you'll have all sorts of representations of your own mind that are saying they want it, but the words aren't backed up by the behavior, right? And it's just like, well, you got to make a decision because you're responsible for that mind, right? If you go to a doctor and they give you a prescription and you know that your patient isn't taking the full prescription or isn't taking the prescription as the thing, you have to do something because you're responsible for that patient, right? You are your brother's keeper. And it's like you either take the whole prescription that I give you or don't take it at all, right? But taking half of it is just as dangerous as not taking it all, right? It's like there's no such thing as partial inner peace. There's no such thing as partial commitment. And there's no such thing as a partial entering into your own transformation. You can't sit on the edge and be a bystander and wait for the right time where you feel it's appropriate for you to step in. That's what ego always does. I'll do it when I'm ready. You're never going to be ready. I'll make a commitment when I feel more, you know, when my kids are left home and all of that. That's not how it is. The kingdom of heaven waits for no person at all, waits for no man. So you have to kind of hear the call and turn up. I'm here. You know, if you're not hearing the call and you're not turning up and you're not here, then it's like, I'm not going to waste my breath. I'm not going to waste my time. And it's like, you guys shouldn't either. And I know plenty of guys that'll sit and be a little wishy-washy about that. And like Jesus says, you know, you're either hot or you're cold. You're either in or you're out. That's it. There's no gray area. So you have to be that uncompromising as well, whatever that looks like to you. You know, however that shows up in your own thing. Doug, you do a lot of therapy stuff. I see your ads and that sometimes. It's like same thing. You wouldn't take on board a patient that obviously wasn't using the advice you gave or whatever like that, would you? You'd be like, what's the point? Go find somebody else that you can hear this from, or go find someone you think is, you know, but you never get salvation on your own terms. Right? You just don't. Because you don't know what it is. You're the problem. And salvation is the solution. So it's like, oh, I want the solution, but I want to tell you what the solution is that I want. It's like, nah. See that other guy with the sandals walking that way? Go follow him. Go be with that guy. He's going to go off and build houses and catch fish and do whatever. It's like, I'm just going to keep going in this direction. You don't have the right sandals for this journey. So that's that, and I'm kind of excited to see what shows up. It's like it's getting to the point now where it's just the same kind of group of us over 2-3 nights. Like the Wednesday night, there was only Tina and I last Wednesday, which was perfect. But there's only like 6 or 7 of us really that are like 8 or 9, you know, maybe at the thing, that are kind of in this Zoom thing. Who's putting a hand up?
I raised my hand.
You got a little hand up there.
I was trying to be official and raise my hand.
I didn't see it.
Hi, I have a little something I'd like to ask you if you would. Could you talk a little bit about the recording of it too, while we're on this sort of a subject? I think it might be helpful.
I didn't do that. You
did it on Wednesday, but it was just, you know, you said it was just me and you.
You and me, yeah.
Anna was there though.
Were you?
And Angela was there as well. So.
Really?
But I think it would be helpful to say it.
That's fine. Yeah, I think I remember that now.
Yeah.
It's all.
They peeled off. You know, Anna had to go pray. She went about it.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So okay. So what are we talking about? Okay.
If you could talk a little bit about the fact that they're recorded and it's public and the reasoning why. You know, aside from, you know, the deeper purpose for that happening, if you would.
All right. So.
I'll lower my hand now.
Okay. So in the interests of healing, right, we're recording these things and we're putting them up on YouTube, and they're sort of like, if you know about it, you'll find it, but they're also open to public investigation, so that if spirit has need for someone to find what we're about, they'll be able to find it. Right now, some people have expressed a discomfort in being put up in a public thing like YouTube or whatever. And it's like, well, you have to kind of look at this from the overall perspective. I'm participating in something here that benefits the greater good through my own action of mind, through my own undoing, right? The idea that I would want to keep that to myself and not be able to share that in its full capacity in any way possible with others in this world, where finding a way to deal with error is so difficult, is kind of like missing the point of the whole meeting. It's like in 50 years, 100 years, if there's still YouTube or whatever, I would love for people to be able to be clicking around and go, oh, A Course in Miracles, Zoom meeting, 2022, we'll all be long gone, 2022, and let's see what these guys are about, right? And here we are as historic references representing a singular curriculum of self-awareness in a particular way that we're saying is being useful for us in helping to facilitate a shift in consciousness and a greater understanding of our position in the whole thing, and that we're wanting to offer that to our world, right? You never get anything for yourself alone. The whole point of the teaching of the Course is that healer and patient are not separate, and that what I heal in me and the miracle that occurs in me can affect people that are not even born yet and people from the past, right? Because time isn't a linear thing that goes from alpha to omega. If you imagine it as a tube and you spin that tube around end on end like a microscope, not a microscope, what do you call that thing? Telescope, and you look through it, it's happening all at once. In the now, it's all one thing going on, which is why the mind that is learning this technology, like the collapse of time, is bringing that alpha and omega together, boom, in the here and the now, where in this moment, all dimensions, all realities, and everything else exists, right? The ego would have you believe that it's spanned out over time and you've got millions of years to go and all of that sort of thing. That's fine. That's how the mind will continue to operate until it has a profound enough shift that the change that that shift brings becomes concretized in the thought system, and going back on the shift is impossible. Okay. But that only comes about when you see that your interests and your brother's interests are not separate. Now, if you still have some kind of concern how you think that ought to look, that you're fulfilling your part in the atonement, and you're making that effort to overcome error within yourself, and it should be this way or it should be that way, then you still got more work to do. Right? Jesus took a whole bunch of people across the desert, let's say, right, in the Holy Land, tens of thousands at one point, people from little villages everywhere flocking to follow the man who healed by the grace of God, right? You can bet there was nobody in that group who was doing this. Oh, there's Mrs. Jones from next door. I don't want her to see me here. Trying to uphold some kind of social standing or identity based on an integrity that, you know, if shaken, would have to represent this as some kind of gobbledygook. You know what I mean? It's like, what is there in the mind that is attempting to maintain some kind of defense or distance or anonymity regarding this that would fall away if it was exposed completely? That's why we're here. We're here to be exposed completely. That's the whole purpose. I'm here to be completely vulnerable, completely open. I want the whole universe to be looking at me going, no, that guy's just a tattoo artist. He's not the Christ. He must be crazy, right? Bring it on, right? That's the catalyst. That is the catalyst. It's like Jesus walked around. It's like, no, he can't be the Messiah. He's just a carpenter, you know, just the son of the carpenter. It's like, well, same thing, exactly the same thing. So there's no solution other than acceptance. There's no solution other than a letting go of a defensive position that is attempting to maintain some kind of falsity about an identity-based concern. Right? So here we are, we're on show to the world. It's like, holy cow, in a world of 8 billion people that are all trying to holdly tight, you know, that little bit of light and use it for what they want. Here we are going, hey, I'm here. I love you. I'm undergoing this whole shift. I'm undergoing this whole transformational bullshit adventure for you. I'm not asking your gratitude. I'm not asking for anything. I'm doing this so it's easier for you when your turn comes. I'm doing this to help raise up the vibration of consciousness for you when your turn comes to do it. So you may not have to dig into such deep a pit of bullshit as I had to, because I love you. That's it. Because I love you. Everything ends at the bottom line, because I love you. If the bottom line doesn't end with that, you need to go back and revise the script, see what's going on. Why wouldn't I want to do this? Because I love you. Why wouldn't I want to stand up? You know, it's like every social reformist, let's say, even in a worldly sense. Martin Luther King, he had some incredible ideas. Gandhi had some incredible ideas. John Lennon, Jesus, you know, all of these guys that had this powerful perception of the way things could be as an extension and thing. All of them assassinated and killed and shot and whatever. It's like, you're not being asked to play that role to be assassinated and killed and shot, but you're being asked to stand up and represent. That's what this is about. It's like the time will come in your own thing, in your own neighborhood, where everybody that sees you as just their neighbor or their whatever, it's like they're going to either choose to see you then as, wow, this person's standing up and they're representing. I always thought they were just, you know, a gardener or a mechanic or whatever. They're actually standing up and representing the Christ as my next door neighbor, as my shopkeeper, as my automobile mechanic. I love that little story of what's his name? Not Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Richard Bach's other book, Illusions, the Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. Right. So the Messiah has, if you haven't read it, it's a little teeny book that'll take you a couple of days to read. The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, right? It's just called Illusions, and there's a blue feather on the cover. It's a fictional story about a guy that realizes or has a realization in his own mind about the nature of life and how he's just clinging to everything and fearful and all of this sort of stuff. And I don't remember the whole body of the story now, but in the beginning, there's a little preamble kind of story written in a handwritten text, like on a scrappy bit of, and it's even printed as if it's like on a little notepad, like a Spirax notepad, and it's stuck in the front of the book before you get to the typed out bit, and it's just all handwritten. And it says, in the holy lands of Indiana and the east of Fort Wayne or something, came a master unto the earth. You know, and it goes on, the master had learnings from other lands and other lives that he'd lived, and he carried those learnings with him into his trade as a mechanic of automobiles, you know. And when people started to find out that he was actually a Messiah, they would throng into his automobiles workshop and beg him to heal them and teach them and do everything for them and the whole thing. And he became so popular for that and not his automobile skills that he had to leave his job and go away, right? The owner of the automobile shop asked him to leave. And it's like, well, that's each of us. We're not being asked to feed the masses and to heal the blind and the lame and whatever. If those things come along, those are the gifts of the Holy Spirit. As it says in the New Testament, when the Holy Spirit comes along, he will bless you with many gifts. Some will be teachers, some will be healers, some will be visionaries, all these sorts of things. You know, there's a whole section in there about it. And you have to use those gifts. You have to use those gifts. You've got to represent. You've got to stand up and use it, because if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Right? If you don't use it, you'll lose it. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And it's not really that the Lord taketh away. It's just like, if you don't use it, you'll lose the capacity to use it, because not using it allows in the framework of the old thought system to build up an excuse or a reason for not wanting to use it. I don't want to stand up and represent because of what people will think of me. What if I get persecuted by my neighbors and my friends? If you still have all those sorts of concerns, go and do something else. Like, this is a journey for, you know, the stout of heart. This is a journey for those who are done with the injustices of the world and who look out and see the pain and the suffering in their brothers' lives and their own lives and know that there must be a better way. And you've got to represent that in its entirety or not at all. However it comes to you to do that. You can't hide. You can't be concerned about being exposed, because the purification part of this whole journey, which is the beginning part, the purification that we're going through now, is elemental in the necessity for exposure. It's the foundation of it. You've got to be exposed. I'm full of shit. I'm full of shit. I'm the denial, all of this stuff in this world, right? And I'm learning to let go of that errant thought system so that I can reabsorb or relearn what it is that my processing should be about, to integrate a place of being willing to represent totally the truth of myself rather than the lie. Okay? But to do that, I've got to release everything. I've got to be exposed. And it's like, I don't care what people think of me. You think Jesus cared what people thought of him when he was carrying the cross? Everybody that was there and witnessed to his miracles, everybody that followed him across the hills and saw him heal and fishes and loaves and all of that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, they all turn against him. They all start pointing out the disciples that were with him. That guy was with him and that guy was with him. All the Karens of his dream, you know? And it's like, do you think he really cared? He knew that had to happen. He knew that it would happen, because they couldn't hear and they couldn't see. Right? Don't be a Karen. Be a disciple. Stand up. Represent. Who the hell cares what anyone thinks? Because what the hell have you got to lose? Really? What are you trying to protect? You know? So these Zoom meetings, they're out there. We've already got some on YouTube, and it's like, I don't know, like it was probably more Tina than anyone that was concerned about it. But see, she can admit to that. But these Zoom meetings are out there. And here's a funny thing, right? So I was talking to Tina about this the other day. My YouTube channel that I've had for God knows how many years, which has had like 19 viewers, 19 subscribers, has gone from 19 to nearly 500 in a matter of weeks since these things have been going up there, which means that people are finding this, accessing it. And if they're accessing it, then they're able to also take on board what it is that we're about in these meetings. And when we do, like me talking is nothing. This is just housekeeping stuff, right? But when we're doing that 20-minute book and it gets active, right? When you start to have those reflective moments, when you have those realizations, oh my God, that's me. Right? Which are actually good moments, even though they're humbling and sometimes embarrassing and everything. They're actually good, healthy moments, right? But when you have those moments and you have the release of it and everything like that in a public forum, and it's like you don't care, that's a huge example. That's a massive example to anyone else who's looking at this book going, I don't get it. I don't get what it's about, how it all falls into place, whatever. Because nobody else does this. No one else teaches like this. No one else makes those confrontations. Right? I operate these meetings with the understanding and the acceptance of the fact that you guys are entering into a circle with me for my healing and for the healing of all the world. Right? It's a collaborative venture, and we join in it as that, which is the most beautiful thing. Everybody gets a bit out of it. Everybody sort of gets to go up a little bit of vibration. Every meeting, it's more and more and more. It's like I hear this again and again and again. And then you probably already realize when you go out your front door and into the world, it's completely encapsulating. It's very hard to maintain a presence of mind in many situations that the world throws at you. So the more of these meetings, the greater the witness to what it is that we're about in this begins to build in your own mind and in your own memory and in your own awareness, so that when you do walk out the front door, you can carry it with you for a more sustained period without losing your own peace of mind at the next catastrophe or natural disaster or anything that happens. Just because you can walk around saying, oh, it doesn't matter, it's just an illusion, doesn't mean that's what you truly believe. It's just what you're telling yourself because you picked up a book that tells you that. Right? But it's literally the integration of the principles that the book's presenting that will bring your understanding of it and your experience of it together, so that thoughts, words, and deeds all line up. And you'll be judged for that. You'll be held accountable for that by the cast and crew of your dream. He's just a carpenter's boy. He's just Doug the artist. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. The life of Brian. Even Brian didn't want to be the Messiah in the life of Brian. That's the funniest film, The Life of Brian. It's like at the end, he ends up crucified regardless. No matter how much he tried to deny, I'm not the Messiah, go away. He still ended up on the cross. It's like you can't escape your destiny. All you can do is accept it and be about the process of, let's speed this up and get it done with, because I don't want to have to drag this out. I see that it's going to be painful. There's going to be confrontations. There's going to be healing. There's going to be forgiveness. There's going to be all of this stuff goes on. Let's just get it over with as quickly as possible. And some people like to look at it and go, well, I'll just day at a time, whatever. And then there's other ones who's like, fuck yeah, I really want to get through this. I want to find my denial and dig it out and all of this stuff and heal it. That's fine too. It's like, it's not up to me to decide for you how it is that you embrace the curriculum or apply it, but I'm here to represent it. And same as you guys are here to represent it. I think there's a bit in the course where Jesus says an elder brother is entitled to devotion if he's devoted, or whatever that line is, something like that. And it's like, I'm kind of pretty sure I'm devoted. So, and if you want to avail yourself of that devotion that I have as an extension of it to you, then we have very simple parameters for being able to do that, which is keep your cameras on, join in, because I'm not offering anything else. I'm not offering anything else. It's total joining or not at all. And the perspective, like where Jesus says, teacher of God, accept no compromise where death plays a part. You guys are going to have to decide what that looks like for you as well, with family and friends and all of that sort of thing. If they're telling you, oh, shut up, I don't want to hear about any of that stuff. It's like, well, maybe you don't verbally express that stuff. Maybe you just give better hugs, and maybe you just offer silent blessings and things like that. But just remember, don't expect to be patted on the back. Don't expect to be patted on the back. You're the one responsible for their pain, their suffering, and their confusion. It's like, oh, damn. So this is a very, 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 very humble pie journey. And you eat it and you eat it and you eat it. You eat that humble pie all the way home. Not with guilt on the top, but with responsibility sprinkled on the top. It's like, okay, true humility is accepting my place as the Christ with you. But that's a humble place where I have to take responsibility for anything that shows up for me that's not that. Accept atonement for myself. Look a bit tired there, Bibiana. Been blessed by the Holy Spirit.
Relaxed.
What time?
Me too.
What time is it there? You still got your nightie on?
This body experience hot flashes, and I given up how I present myself, and I meet this idea of how I attach myself to different ideas, you know, my attachments, how I need to, oh, is this presentable even idea? Or and yes, I am responsible how I look at things. And that power of decision is within me, and it's God-given. So again, what do I use this a moment for?
Exactly.
What do I use it? And it's I give myself and I receive it. So which kind of gift am I giving to myself? And again, you know, what do I insist on? Teach only love, for that is what I am. And how does it experience look like? And I do see that anytime when I can recognize the perception is here, even though it feels good, like looking at a bumblebee, being busy, and suddenly there's commentary, blah, 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 and I'm listening to it. I'm like, it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't matter. It feels good. It's in a mindset of that meaning-making machine, you know, and it's for me, you know, experience of just isness. Everything is expression of God, you know, and without that mind, blah, 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 but that means understanding. You see, for myself, a lot of times I thought like experience of ease is a result of understanding. No, I have been mistaken. I have been mistaken. All my understanding, and every times when that experience comes, like, oh yeah, you understand. No, it's for me. It's not it. That's how I bind myself. Meaning making and gentleness. The first thing what came up for me is when you said, okay, well, it's posted on YouTube. And again, it's for me to recognize it, that fearful mind, what the nature is only fear is, maybe you're going to be divorcing. Oh, this is going to be found out. Your child's going to be taken away from you. They're going to win the case because you're going to be unfit mother because you're the crazy one. And this is going to be the evidence. And all this fear came up. And again, where does it exist? It's only in my in this mind, what makes a meaning. And it's for me, which kind of roles I assign to myself as a little girl, giving meaning to myself, who I am. There's power over me, something that can scare me. I can lose something. The love can be lost. Or love is found in my daughter. And she's the symbol. Which kind of idols I have created and believe that my safety or fulfillment of life, I'm a triggered, and it's a good way triggered, redefining where the fulfillment is found. And I love that somewhere is that sentence, and I want to use it. I want that the sentence will teach me, recognize how misguided I am. Everything is accomplished through life, and life is of the mind and in the mind.
Yeah.
And the power to decide is within me. No one can take it. There's no one, because there's no other. And when differences are seen, even as a bumblebee, separate. I'm a nanny pushing a stroller with a baby, and there's a bumblebee. No, which kind of mindset sees all that separation? So yeah, every moment can be used, and not like I use in that mind. And again, I can recognize how I use everything to assign the meaning to it, and suddenly I am in that Bibiana's way of seeing the world and insisting this is so. And what did it bring me? Ever. Because even in that moment where there's delight, let's say in the bumblebee, and that mindset, I want to say, oh, this is how the God expresses itself, and oh, this feels good. There's already fear. I want more of it. I want it like that all the time. It can never work in that mindset. And it's for me to recognize which mindset am I choosing. And again, where do I put my faith in again? Devotion. And it's a gentleness again, that, okay, you in a mindset of that young child who believes there are differences. Yeah, so it's a gift for me to practice and to recognize. So yes, even that fear, wow, someone will Google and maybe you will divorce, and oh, you need to be afraid. And so again, I created the one who believes there's something to be afraid of. So thank you. That's where I'm at.
It's really an integrity with the premises, you know, like you have to maintain an integrity with the premises. And as soon as you slip, you'll see where you slip. Yeah. The fear just shoots straight back in. Like it's like all of a sudden I've let go of my uncompromising position with unconditional love. And in this world, there are those conditions. But all of a sudden, not only am I doing that, I'm actually consciously inviting fear back in doing that. It's not like I do it by accident.
No. The power of a choice.
That's right. I'm consciously choosing, even though the choice seems to be made in unawareness. It's not.
It's not.
I'm either representing the Christ, however that looks for me as an individual expression of that, or I'm representing fear, which is nothingness.
The power of decision. The power of decision.
Right. It is the power of decision.
And it's I see that as a young child, I practiced and I decided that can be power over me, and I'm the one who needs to be scared, you know, or I don't have worth to not to be scared because I'm a chosen one, you know, that someone treats me with respect, and whatever version it had. And I practiced that. And now, so I was saying I'm powerless. There's power bigger than me, what can have power over me. And gentleness now can use that and say, okay, this is the replay of that. And then when I see that what even within your words is reminded to me, and again, the power of decision is within me, and it is God-given. I have not created that. It just is. It's there. And I cannot be at two places at the same time. I cannot be powerless and have, I don't know what is even the word, the absolute power, because everything starts from the mind, and the projection is the result of the mind. And again, it's for me to recognize which mindset is a mirror of, and it's for my healing. And then when there's no need to understand, and just the strength, you know, this, I love that lesson that miracles are seen in light and strength are one. Strength is within me, because I have not created myself, and I can gently meet all those ideas of that young mind, believing, no, it is so, I am according to this, and it's not true, the power to decide is within me, and it's the same. And the gentleness say, okay, do you see other? Okay, you know, which mindset are you in? Use it, use it, use it, use it. And I love what you said, you know, devotion of the heart is a discipline. That I don't hold anything specialness. So every moment when I want to see my daughter as the source of love, I hold myself in darkness, and and knowing the difference between specialness and love. Love is isness of it, not assigning the meaning to it, special meaning what I give it, and gentleness means it and use it. So yeah, and even yawning, what I want to assign the meaning to it. Right away, the first thing when you said it, the guilt came up. Oh, you see me like I'm not paying attention, and I met it gently, and then part of me just said it's a neutral event. It has no meaning. This body's relaxed because it hears the truth, and whatever, you know, meaning. I can be nonstop like little mice going in a cartwheel over and over and not arriving anywhere. Meaning making. There's no truth found in that. That's the nature of that thought system.
That's right.
So it's for me to remember what I want to understand.
That's right. You keep your mind in a frame where it's God's meaning is always being written upon the images and the things that I think have the meaning that I would have them have. You know? It's like, now hang on a minute. God's already given meaning to all creation, including my miscreations. And if I step back from the meaning that I've given them, I'll see what it is that the true meaningful nature of my relationship with them actually is.
Yes.
Which will be joy rather than bring me another cause to defend myself or to try and manipulate my way through, you know, a strange land. It's really quite a beautiful teaching. Heidi. Let's have it. Come on.
Distracted. I'm just distracted. Sorry.
That's okay. You can't possibly be distracted. You can only ever be distracted by love. That's not really a distraction at all. You can call it a distraction, but hey. So what happened?
Distracting me? What?
No. Did you have another Mary moment?
No.
Oh, and you didn't? Okay, I had a thing. I think I talking to you about it, Tina, and you said you were at the thing. When I said to you that you'd have another Mary moment, it was that energy. It wasn't Mary the specific, so you have to forgive me for that. I was kind of like on a high from the last one that you had, like just in that recognition of that. And it's like, but the doorway or the portal to, what would you call it? So my father's kingdom has many mansions, right? My father's house has many mansions. I always see that if you imagine a house and you walk down a hallway and there are bedroom doors and whatever, all the doors are closed, right? And you open a door and you go, oh, that's a bedroom, and you close it and you open another one, that's a kitchen and that's a living room and that's a study or whatever. in the idea of my father's house has many mansions, each one of those doors you open leads onto a room bigger than the sum of its parts. Right? That door that I open, if I step into my bedroom, that bedroom's not just a bedroom. It contains a whole scope of memories and experiences on a physical plane over a period of lifetimes, right? And I'm just using this very loosely as an idea to try and get a point around here, right? One of those doors for you is marked Mary, right? Mary's room. It's the job of the miracle worker to open all those doors and leave them open so that my Father's kingdom is unified in my own awareness of it. It's not hidden away behind this bit, that bit. Some of those doors, when I was a child, I got my bum smacked in my dad's bedroom, you know, like I don't want to see those memories, you know, so shut the door, things like that. But the Mother Mary, I look at Mary as, you know, the virginal Mary, and it totally didn't occur to me about the two Marys when I said to you that you would have a Mary experience or a Mary moment. But that Mary moment, I mean, to me, it means something. It has a representation within the framework of my own story that is a coming to an acceptance, or a coming to God, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like Mary is a catalyst for the fulfillment of the prophecy. Okay. Now, the prophecy of the coming of Christ has already been fulfilled in you through the resurrection, and you're looking at your own stories that corroborate it and bear witness to it as you go through your own transformation, right? Whether you're aware of the story in a biblical sense or not, it doesn't matter. It's still your story. And there's a coming to, there's an acceptance of the fact that there's a prophecy being fulfilled, or a promise being fulfilled by God in you. And the markers or the hallmarks of that process are going to be such that you can recognize them and you can identify them. Because if you couldn't, what's the point? You wouldn't know what was going on. You'd be just like, go crazy, right? So the idea of Mary as representing something in my mind represents that virginal sort of total purity out of which the Christ comes, out of which the Christ is born, right? It's a state of mind. Mary is a state of mind more than a state of a beingness that I associate with. It's like it's a place of perfect purity in heart and in mind where they line up. And there are like ring pass knots. There are doors that open. It's like when you step into it, it's like a lesson repeats until it's learned. You'll come across the same sorts of things again and again and again in your own transformation until finally you realize you're actually coming across it. Okay. It's like, oh, I just noticed that something happened last week or whatever. That may have been occurring for many, many years. And it gets pushed aside subconsciously as a little tiny irritation or a little tiny something. You don't even worry about it. It's like waving away a fly, right? But eventually it's like, there's that fly again, right? And you start to realize it's the same fly. It's like, what the hell? This fly has followed me all the way from the supermarket. This fly has followed me all the way from work. It's the same fly that was yesterday, you know, this same situation, the same problem. And it carries the energetic signature of this fly. And so Mary represents a fly that is trying to get my attention. Oh, that's my phone. But Mary's representing a fly trying to get my attention that, to me, I don't know what it represents to you, right? I could guess, but to me represents that perfect sacred portal, that place where the birth of the Christ comes forth from, right? It's like the vessel, and out of the vessel comes the birth and the whole thing. It's really, really, really sacred in the whole thing. And Mary has a really big part to play. In my own mind, I look at that and I'm like, I don't feel worthy to be that. I don't feel worthy to take that on board as a perspective about myself, that I'm worthy for the Christ to be birthed through me. I have all these dark hidden thoughts about myself and whatever. It's like I'm far from virginal and I'm far from perfect. But there are moments that are given in this to show me that that's not the truth about myself. That's a false belief held in mind deliberately so that I can deny the birth of the Christ in me. And the idea that the Mother Mary would show up, or that the idea of Mary would show up to me, is a prompt. Right? I mean, some people, it's like that, I forget the exact story, but the little girl that went to Lourdes, and before it was even a place where there were healing waters, and she had a vision of the Virgin Mary there at Lourdes, where she could go into the water and be reborn again, come out completely healed. Like that whole thing. And now today it's kind of like a tourist attraction where everybody, and they've got a shrine and they've got all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of like a corruption of the original story, but that's what happens in consciousness. But to me, it would be a prompt to be looking at that sense of worthiness or unworthiness or things like that, because it's easy. It's very easy to take a comfortable road in this, where we don't have to expand our awareness of our sense of self in denial unless it's in our face. Right? Unless it's in my face and it's pushing all my buttons, why would I look at it? Why would I want to even entertain it or consider it? But when I begin to see that all the characters in the story of the birth of the Christ and the prophecy and the whole thing, all of those characters symbolically represent something about myself that together come through as a fluid movement, bringing about the emergence of the Christ. The acceptance of the role that each of those characters play, in a sense, is my own acceptance of the role that I'm given to play. I cannot not look at it any other way, because I'm not separate from anything. Everything I see out there is a symbolic representation of my own thinking. You guys, people in the Bible, apparently 2,000 years ago, let me turn that on the end and see it now. You know, it's not 2,000 years ago, it's now. The mother, the Mary, even both Marys, if you wanted to look at the other one of the sinner being purified and absolved of sin, you know, but that Mary plays a part that is so powerful. It's a pivotal part. It's literally the portal, like literally the portal. If you're looking for that place in your own mind in meditation where the here and the now, and you sit there still, it's a very serene, very calm, very it's a very familiar place. It's a very, very familiar place. It's like there's a great sense of comfort there, a great sense of being nurtured, being birthed, being like everything being exactly as it's meant to be. I can't really describe it. It's like it's a feeling that you get about things when you enter into that deepest of deep divine countenances within yourself. Like the best that we have for it, like Jesus doesn't talk about it at all in the course, but well, actually I don't know that for a fact, I might have forgotten, but the best reference I have for it is those last lessons where it says, and now we say God is and we cease to speak. In that place where we cease to speak and that chitty chatty mind is quiet, hopefully by those end of those lessons, right? Where we cease to speak, it's like there's a sense of just there's nothing to worry about there. There's a sense of everything's coming through according to the prophecy, the fulfillment, and the birth canal, the whole thing that's going on in me is part of it. I'm both the vessel through which the Christ will be reborn into the world, and also the Christ itself. Right? The vessel then having no use for the Christ other than to express, here's the Christ. It's like Mary knew she wasn't the Christ as such, but she was the vessel through which the Christ was going to enter into the world. And here is my son, the Christ. Everything bearing witness to that in you. Seen rightly, even those in denial still bear witness. You couldn't not believe in God without there first being a God for you to not believe in. So when that Mary moment shows up, and it may not be Mary, I mean, if you were of a different genetic lineage or whatever, you would have stories about a sacred mother or a sacred orifice that, I mean, what is it called in India? There's the lingam and the yingam or something, or the lingam and the thing. And there's a great sense of worship and devotion attached to these things because they represent an idea of healing. They represent an idea of unity and divinity that is both not of the vessel, but through the vessel. You know? I don't know if I'm doing a good job of this one, but Mary, to me, Mary is very, very powerful. When I read the New Testament, right, Mary's role when she hears the angel and the angel says the boy will be called Jesus, you know, Mary's role is pivotal, bringing about an energetic fulfillment of a part of that prophecy, you know, which is my prophecy, my story. It's one body of Christ being played out through many different parts. Each of those parts is important to embrace and important to look at as an idea of truing up to a vibration, truing up to a part of a vibration that's going to continually be bringing me into alignment with that moment of sacred union in my mind. You know? If you were a tax collector, perhaps you would probably associate more with, was it Simon? I can't remember. Matthew. Sure, I'm sure it says Simon in my book.
I'm sure you're wrong.
Okay, I'll let you be right about that and me be wrong about that, because that's how things proceed. But you would associate with Simon, you know, like you would have a story where you would say, Matthew, you would have a story running in your own mind as a modern day tax auditor or whatever. And you'd be like, oh man, my job's much easier. I do it all on the keyboard. There'd be something going on there, some chit chat, right? And you would form an association with that idea of tax collector, as any mother in the world would form an association with an idea of Mary. The virgin birth may be a bit of a conundrum, but the idea of Mary as birthing someone, that's an associative memory that pretty much every woman on the planet could probably relate to. So when you look at that in your own heart and in your own mind, it's like, wow, there's a sacredness presented there, even in that part of the story. Let me embody that. Let me look at that, let it in, put my finger on my nose and feel it. Let me own it. Let me connect with it, right? And that will reveal something else. It's like anything. It's like Jesus, you know, when he was at the pool and the man with the withered leg, I think it was, and he couldn't get in the pool. Everybody was in the way and he's been waiting there for 20 years or, you know, like my version of the stories is probably not exactly as they're presented, but you get the idea. And Jesus says, I will put you in the pool, right? But imagine if he had hesitated. I don't want to embody the Christ now because there's all these people around, and what if I put him in the pool and his leg doesn't get better or whatever it is? You know? You can edit my story, Tina. I know. My memory is.
That's a beautiful story. You did well. No, that's a beautiful.
Right, okay,
story.
I got that one right.
Bethesda. The pool of Bethesda.
That's the one, Bethesda.
Oh. Yeah. Oh.
So, but it's the same thing. Like I read that story and automatically it puts me into a place in my mind, well, he's the Christ and he put that guy in the pool and he healed. What if I'm supposed to be the Christ as well? And what if somebody comes to me with a wonky leg and they want me to put them in the pool as well and nothing happens? Like there's a moment of terror where I'm fearful of stepping into that role, thinking that it has something to do with me rather than the power of God within me. Right? Same thing with Mother Mary. Who am I to birth the Christ? You know, I'm always looking at my doubt. I'm always looking at my fear so that it can be healed, so that I can forgive. But if I'm not embracing it, if I'm not looking at what's given, it's like, man, these stories are given. These references are given. I'm not reading about Joe the butcher on the corner shop handing out pork chops to poor kids. I'm reading about a woman who was a virgin of the Holy Lands giving birth to someone who changed the nature of thinking of the entire world. You know, that's a given. Let me look at that. So it's like sometimes you get to see that things occur and you have a moment where you might have a vision or an epiphany or something of a particular aspect of your own storyline. It's like, wow. It's not just that I had a vision of Mary. Let me go and tell everyone I saw Mary. It's like, why did I have a vision of Mary? What is that in me? Why did she appear to me? Let me look at that and sit with that and allow it to become known to me what this is that is being presented. You know, Mary wasn't just laying there in a bed one night and the angel came and said, make sure you call him Jesus. You know, she's like, holy crap, why are you appearing to me? What do you mean I'm going to give birth to a boy? I'm not even up the duff. You know, like, what does it mean? Where is it represented in my own particular association with the storyline? You know, my storyline is a storyline that goes from denial to acceptance, from darkness to light. And there are catalysts, there are moments that occur in that which symbolic represents things to me that make sense of not only the prophecy of old, because it's all going on here and now, spin it around, look through it here and now, not only that prophecy and that fulfillment there, but that same prophecy and fulfillment active in my own mind now, in the time zone that I seem to find myself sitting here as this body in a world as illusory as that is. Right? The future is a bit of an unknown, but in the future, if I miss the lesson, it's going to keep perpetuating itself again and again. That little fly is going to keep coming back around, back around, back around until I pay attention to it and ask it what it wants. Right? What is this lesson? What am I looking at here? And the further you get into your own transformation, the more subtle it's going to become. When you first start looking in the mirror, it's obvious. Oh, geez, I'm an asshole. What a judgmental bastard I am. I judge everyone and everything, blah, 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 blah. You do a bit of healing, and before you know it, your mind starts to become a little bit more liberated and you feel a bit more free within yourself. And those denial moments tend to get harder to spot. They have to show up in symbols. They show up in ways where you can't miss it. We'll send you a vision of the Mother Mary. We'll send you a representation of something that, in a sense, you will understand. So you'll be able to step back and go, oh, burning bush, that's a bit out of the usual, you know, I'll go and investigate that. Let me have a look at that. Let me see what that represents and means in me. Otherwise, you'd let yourself off the hook. You know? Never underestimate the power of ego in denial. Power of mind. It's slippery and cunning and vicious and suspicious and loves to hide in the dark shadows where you can't really quite put your finger on it. You know? But it's like if you suddenly see an apparition appear in the sky and holds out their hands and, oh, the sounds of angels and harps and everything. It's like, oh, I didn't miss that one. I got that. Did anybody else see that? It's like, no. Sometimes you have those moments, and those moments, they're like, they're a slap in the face. Like, wow, I saw something. I just saw something. Something happened to me that fulfilled something, like it put a part in my storyline. Let me look at that for a second. Let me sit in it and ask within to the Holy Spirit, all right, what am I to do with this? Right? That's what you're being encouraged to do with everything. Right? To ask within, to go within. You don't have any problem to ask within when it's something that you think serves your own best interest, but when you're not aware that it's serving your own best interest, the mind quickly wants to just sort of pocket it into some other little pigeonhole. I'll look at that later. Maybe that's, I don't know what to do with that. I'll just stick it away. So no, you have a good reference now. You can ask within, what do I do with this? It's just energy, right? So I'm looking at the idea of, it's like one of my dear friends from years and years ago, Claire Bear, we got left behind at the healing center when everybody else, like 100 other brothers who were attending there, their airfares were paid for to go to the United States to meet the old man, right? To meet master teacher, dear one, whatever. I couldn't go because my visa hadn't come through because I'd been a naughty boy years before. And Claire couldn't go for whatever reason. So the two of us stayed behind at the healing center and kept the doors open. And while we were there, we repainted the whole floor in the dining room, which was a concrete floor. We made ourselves useful, painted the place and did all sorts of stuff. The guys were gone for like 2-3 weeks or something. And we had all these moments together, right? We were still there. We didn't let ourselves off the hook because all of a sudden we weren't included in the majority of people there in our own mind. We made a decision. We're going to represent the Christ in this, even though we've been left behind, and we're going to do this work, right? And in that work, I had a Moses moment, right? Or Claire came to me. It's like we were working away, and I was stronger than her. And so I was doing all the harder work and she was doing we both did it all. Like it was a collaborative thing. One wasn't doing more than the other. But in the doing of that activity, something happened in me that caused Claire to see something about my energetic signature, right? That had an association in her that reminded her of Moses, or her affinity with the story of Moses, right? There was a passion and a rawness and a whatever it was. And she said, man, you've got such Moses energy, like you're totally Moses. And for a little while, she started calling me Moses and referring to me in that way. I could have just brushed that off, right? I could have just ignored it and gone, oh yeah, Moses, and looked at my own ideas of who Moses was and what he represents. But instead, I chose to embody it, right? Let me look at that. What is it that she's seeing in me that I'm not really touching base with myself, right? It's all illusion. It's all not true, the whole thing, but there might be something in it for me. And I went into it and I was able to see something in myself. Like it took about 3 or 4 days, but I saw something in myself where I also resonated with the story of Moses. I went back to the Bible and I reread it and I read it and I read it. And it's like, holy cow, I do have that energy. It wasn't the story. It was the energy of Moses that I picked up on. It's like he was a kind of a dude, you know, like Moses had this thing where he went up a mountain. He came down with 2 stone tablets with a whole bunch of rules for a whole people. You know, it's like if we do these things, we're going to stop having to need to club each other over the head every time something goes wrong. You know, we'll just eye for an eye still is there, but, you know, but we've got some guidelines to live by now. Now, as a symbolic representation of consciousness, trying to raise up from the quagmire of the denial, right? Any kind of conceptual ideas that help me to manage my mental state are helpful. Okay, even if they are chiseled onto stone tablets. Thou shalt not steal. Oh, good one. Yeah. Thou shalt not covet. Oh, yeah, it makes sense, you know. And you start to look at it, and together we agree that these things might be beneficial, and we begin to apply them, and our consciousness starts to raise up a little, right? When I looked at the idea that Claire was calling me Moses, or was referring to me in that energetic reference, I had to look what it meant. And it's like, man, I'm responsible for everything I'm saying. I'm responsible for everything I'm putting out there as an example of representing my time to contribute to the raising of consciousness. Right? And that was an actual happening in me. It was like a key in a lock. It wasn't just a concept. It was a key in a lock that allowed me to move forward with being okay about that, and to move forward with an unfettered kind of presentation of it from within myself. Does that make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense. But it's like prior to having that moment, I didn't realize, or I had no idea that I would be, for example, doing a Zoom meeting today. I was just attending a healing center. I was just going to meditation and sitting with Ted and listening to stuff. I didn't know where that was going to lead. I didn't know what responsibilities I would have after that, or what would even be called upon me to do. You know, it's like, Tina, why don't you do a Zoom meeting? I want you to do a Zoom meeting, blah, 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 blah. You know, and it's like when we went traveling, it's like, Sue down in Tilba, I want you to come back here and teach this stuff. And it's like, I barely understand it myself, but yep, I'm willing to, you know, I'm willing to say yes to that. But all of that was unlocked. That ability for me to see that I was willing to say yes to it was unlocked in that Moses moment. Like, in part, I'm sure there were other moments along the way that, you know, led me to being the way I am with this now. And Mary is another one of those moments. Like, they're all, those things are not just people in a story. They're energetic conundrums, or they're energetic unravelings in each of us that represent something when we're willing to look at the honesty that we have about embodying what that representation is. And of course, we're fearful to do that, because the last thing I want to do is love myself unconditionally. I don't want to let anything in if I don't think that I'll be able to manage it and control it. But it's like, hang on a minute. Jesus is going to make sure I get this one way or the other anyway. If I have an affinity with something that he thinks he can use to help me prompt into an understanding about something, it'll be done, because thy will be done. Everybody has figureheads and role models. And, you know, it's like John Lennon was a big role model for me. He just sung about love. It's like I had an association with John Lennon when he was shot. I was only a kid, but I was just starting to listen to his music. I was just starting to really love what it was he was about, and to see myself as being about that too. You know, same with Moses. I could have just seen Moses as a figure in a historic story. But when I really allowed myself to go into the story, when I really allowed myself to embody it, embrace it, and see myself as Moses, which I wouldn't have done unless Claire hadn't have started calling me Moses, right? Why the hell did she start calling me Moses? Why did she make that comment? You know, I would have just probably missed it. But there was something, you know, there's never a moment that I'm not called upon to forgive, to represent, to stand up and walk out of that goddamn prison cell. And whatever it looks like, everything's energetic, everything's symbolic, everything's a feeling of being drawn forward, being led, being called. I feel called to do this. I feel called to go into this aspect of myself and allow myself to explore it, not even knowing what the hell's going to be there, if anything at all. It's like you're making a bold experiment with an idea. This idea seems to represent something that is in my best interests. What have I got to lose by looking at it? If it was robbing a bank, somebody come up and goes, hey, I just saw an armored car there and the guys are having a cup of coffee across the road. Let's go and steal it. I wouldn't be the least bit interested to look at that idea, because I can see where that leads. I can see that goes nowhere. It's just dead end. I end up in jail or dead or shot or something. How does that help me in my awakening? Well, it might be a brutal, short awakening, but I don't think I really need to go down that way. I feel drawn not to. I feel called not to. But when something's presented and you can feel it, and you have a moment with it. It's like just sit in it and let it present itself. Imagine Mary laying in bed and the angel appeared and she went, pulled the blankets up over her head and didn't refuse to listen. Where would we be? Mary's uncooperative. We'll go to Ruth next door and we'll just have a chat to her. That's not in the prophecy. Editing. So for each of us, our own association with not only all of time and space is going on now, but with the idea of the resurrection presented through the story, presented through the playing out of that story. That's my playing out. That's your playing out. It's the same story. It's the same resurrection going on in me as it is in you. We're literally living in it. We're literally living in the time of our own awakening, our own resurrection. And trying to connect with that is the hardest thing there is to do. Trying to hear it on a level that is deeper than the superficial mental landscape of chit-chat is the hardest thing to do. I've read the story, I hear the story, I can recite the story, but am I in the story? Am I embodying the story? Because it is my story. It does no good if I read it and can recite it word for word like a zealot and don't have any affinity with it. What's the point? It's here for my awakening, not so I can tell others about it, not so I can stand up in Sunday school and read it to kids. That may be part of it, but it's got to be my awakening first. Physician, heal thyself. Let me use the story of the birth of Christ as the story of my own birth of Christ in me. Let me look at that Mary. Let me look at Moses. Let me look at whatever that is, because all of it seen rightly is here to assist me. The stuff that I understand and the stuff that I don't understand. Why the hell would Jesus even have appointed scribes to the disciples? If it was just meant for the disciples, it's like, no. Grab your scribe, grab a scribe, follow me. You guys, follow me. Write this down. It's like when he said to Helen, this is A Course in Miracles, take notes. Take notes. This is for the greater good. This is for the extension of this entire story as your story. We've already had the story of walking away from the light. We've had the story of denial. We've had the story of the fall, the original error. All of a sudden, we've reached a turnaround point in our own association with that story. I see that that's my story. I've been walking away from God. I've seen what it does to me. It's shit. I don't want it anymore. Now I'm learning a new story. I'm embodying a new dreaming, a forgiven dream. And in that dreaming, I'm embracing the cast and crew of the story in me, from the past, turning time on its end, from whatever that might be in the future, and also in my own association with it now, in every possible way I can. In every possible way I can. Don't think that just because it happened in the past that it stays there. It's active in you now as part of your story. It's what your awakening is. You are Mary, you are Jesus, you are all of those characters. And as the embodiment of them in your own storyline, you'll come across the activation of what they represent energetically. Don't give it a meaning. Let the meaning be written upon it for you. Don't try to decide what you think things mean. You don't have an epiphany or a holy vision and then try to decide what that is. You let yourself learn what that is by asking within, what is this for me? I see that I'm on the road to, Jerusalem here, and I'm probably going to have to carry my cross and all of this stuff. And on the way, there are indicators and markers and things that go along to confirm the nature of the prophecy and me in the process of fulfilling it. The Garden of Gethsemane. the moment of doubt, all of those things. Sees the snake. It's like, did I see a snake or did I just have a realignment moment? Did I have a moment of realignment with the prophecy and confirm its authenticity in me? There's been so many things that have happened in my process that it's like I was sitting in session one day and I heard the trumpet. And I think there's only one reference in the course for the Gabriel's horn. And I was sitting either watching a video with everybody or listening to Ted. And I remember I was in one of those chairs and I heard this like a trumpet, like a profound, like an angel, a herald. And I turned around expecting to see someone behind me with this big French horn or some kind of trumpet thing. And there was no one there. And I realized that nobody else had heard it. That was some kind of, to me, that was some kind of angelic sort of reference, some sort of biblical reference that was from beyond the world, beyond my normal thing, which was drawing me back to my part in my own story. It was calling me back. It's like, we're at a point now. You've heard Gabriel's horn. Gabriel is the archangel that represents, Tina, what is it? Something like the expression of God or the instruction of God. I forget, I'm going to have to go and look that up now. But, and now that I'm actually thinking about it, I never actually sat with that one. But I remember at the time thinking to myself, that was odd. But at the same time, consoling my concern about it being odd or out of accord with the usual thing that I would expect in that moment, consoling myself with the fact that it was actually spoken about in the course. It's like, oh, cool, that was spoken about in the course. Now, what does it represent for me? I've got to let that in. I've got to ask, wow, I just heard Gabriel's trumpet. I'm sure he didn't blow his goddamn trumpet for no reason at all. What is it, Gabriel? What is it? Let me ask, what is it? It's like, what is it, Mary? What can I do for you? I'm here. I'm here to serve. How is this? Why is this coming to me? Right? And sometimes you can see that these moments are coming, like, because everything is foretold, right? Everything is foretold. It's like when my wife went to India and she had an experience of everything turning to gold and a lake and the whole thing like that over there. Before she went, 2 weeks before she went, I could see she was on the cusp of having a really profound experience. I don't know how I could see it, but I told her, I said, something's about to happen to you, like really profound. You're about to have a massive experience. I don't think you should go to India. You should stay here and let it occur. Because in my mind, I saw going to India as an adjustment to the energy of that coming up, right? She started to get a bit antsy and, fidgety. I got to go to India. I got to go. I don't know why I've got to go. Whatever. And so I'm like, okay, hands off the wheel. I've said what I've had to say. And she went to India and then she had an experience there anyway, which was profound and beautiful and good. But I knew that experience was going to happen regardless, whether in India, whether in Australia, whether in America, on the top of a mountain, at the bottom of the ocean, didn't matter. That experience was like, it's like a chicken hatching out of an egg. It's coming, whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter, My only thing of it is where is the framework for the support of that baby chicken when it comes out, So it's like if I hadn't had all those guys around me in Byron Bay when I had my awakening, I would have been just a gibbering mess. There was a support network there. There was a cradle. There was a blessed, for me, that was really the Mother Mary moment in my own association, I guess. But it's like I'm always looking at everything. It doesn't have the meaning that I give it. It has the meaning that God's already written upon it as part of the fulfillment of his promise in my own process, in my own awareness of myself in relationship to the process of birthing the Christ. Let me look at it that way and it all becomes holy. It's not just I had an experience of something. It's like, well, what did you have it for? The experience is foretold. Everything is foretold. Your awakening is imminent. Right? You're in it now. You're in the process of awakening right now. So let me look at everything in the light of that. We used to have a guy in Brisbane. Brisbane's the biggest city, or the capital city in our state here. And there used to be this guy, I never really gelled with him, but one day in the town square, you're allowed to go there and proselytize and do whatever. And if you're a religious person, you can set up a little thing and hand out free stuff, whatever. And when I was a boy, I used to cut through the square, you know, going to my grandparents' art gallery, which was in town. And this one guy was always there. And he was always like got his signs up written in bright red so you can't miss it. And his hand in the air, and he'd be preaching it. And I always used to wonder, what the hell's this guy on about? You know, what's this guy talking about and whatever? And then I'd start listening to the rhetoric and whatever a bit as I got a bit older. And I wasn't really interested. It didn't really draw me, but I knew that he was representing. I knew that something in him, like 1 million people in that city or 2 million people, there was one guy in the thing, something in him had triggered him to fulfill that part. Something in him had become activated. It was him doing it. It wasn't somebody else. It was him, that guy. You know, and in his association with himself, he was playing a part and also playing a part for me. He was representing what was true in him, or what he'd been finding as true in him, and offering it. And I was receiving it to where I could receive it at, but at that time in my life, not really very much. I didn't have a great association with it. And it takes for the whole thing to come around, that fly to come past my nose again and again. And it was funny, after my awakening, a couple of years after my awakening, we were traveling around. We had these little books to hand out. I ended up there in the square with him, you know, like, and I went and set up my little thing right next to him, like within 2 meters of him, like this. And the square's quite big. It's like 100 meters square kind of thing. And people just, especially at lunchtime, everybody's going through to get their lunch break and whatever. And I had a sign, and I leaned it up against my little collapsible chair. I went on the train into town with all this stuff. And he stopped and he read my sign, and he looked at the books and the whole thing. And I don't know what was going through his head, but there was a moment there where we connected, that even though we were expressing different stuff, me from the Course and him from the Bible, that we were on the same page. We joined in this idea of being about our Father's business in a certain way. And a big smile came across his face just for a second, right? Big smile. And for a second, I felt the validation of, here is another sacred brother, and we're both about our thing together. Thank God I'm not alone in this, you know. And there was this whole joining. There was a moment there, and it was just like so beautiful. And then he just turned away and went back to doing his thing, like just doing his whole thing. No need for a conversation, no need for chit chat. What are you handing out? What's this pamphlet? None of that stuff. No need for it. Just a simple recognition of the activation of the Christ within each of us. You know, and it was beautiful. Wouldn't have mattered if we were selling rubber toys for kids or bloody gummy bears. It wouldn't have mattered one bit. You know, salvation is a collaborative venture. It doesn't matter what the collaboration looks like. It's a coming together in single purpose. A whole team of people coming together in a basketball game to learn how to play basketball and play a game. That's the same thing. That's salvation being played out there. Right? It's an idea away from separation and isolation and singularity, like me away from the world. It's a joining with others. It's a joining. Whether that joining is at a level that it leads you all the way to the gates of heaven, that's neither here nor there. It's at wherever you're at. But I like to look at those moments that come along, especially in the light of this, because we are on the journey that leads us to the gates of heaven. That's the journey we're actually on, despite the best attempts of the ego to convince us that somewhere in our subconscious that, oh yeah, that's just a story about 2,000 years ago. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's the same story being played out now. And what part I'm playing in that story will be revealed to me as I become willing to say yes to the entirety of it. Because part of salvation is meaningless. I'm going to say yes to that whole story. And each of those parts that are vital in the undoing, in the processing, in the healing of everything required in my own affinity with that story is going to come to me. All those blocks are going to be removed miraculously. And sometimes we get prompts. Sometimes we get prompts along the way that show up as revelations, that show up as miracles, that are true revelations, that are things beyond the scope of human understanding. And they start off with a very simple, sometimes almost, I don't know about that one kind of perspective. It's like the little fly, but it's out there a bit. It's not really right under my nose yet. I see that fly. Mother Mary is that fly. Mother Mary is a whole energetic package of stuff that's, I mean, to me, it represents what it represents to me, but to understand the meaning of it, I have to ask. It's like when Jesus says, listen, learn, and do, and, ask for guidance regarding it. When you get a moment that comes along and it's prophetic, right? We're now in the business of prophecy. We're in the business of miracles. We're in the business of divinity. And it's like all of it's coming to you. All of it's coming to me. You got to look at that. It's like, holy crap. I thought I was just Dave, and picking up a course in miracles and reading the lessons, and doing stuff. Then all of a sudden I hear a trumpet. What do I do with that? Right? Let me ask. I'm in a meeting and then something happens. Dave tells me I'm going to have a Mary moment. And then I have a Mary moment. What do I do with that? Ask. Okay. I know there's another moment coming. It's something. At the moment, it seems to be out here in the periphery of my thing. Right? I don't know what it's going to take to bring that fly closer again, but I know it's something there. So everything just brings everything in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. So, but like I didn't know what Mary it was. So and then Tina reminded me, oh, there's two Marys, because my scope on the memory of things in the Bible is a little scatty. There's Mary Mag. So it could be a Mary Mag moment. I really have no clue, but it just appeared in my mind as Mary, a Mary moment. That was it. And I just automatically assumed Mary, mother of Jesus, because that's I don't have a thing with Mary Mag, but it could have been Mary Mag. So,
you know what, Dave, I want to, that story of the pool of Bethesda. I just want to say something about it. I had to look it up because you said that he put him in the pool. And I think that there's something of value that he didn't put him in the pool.
Oh, no, he didn't put him in the pool. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say that because that's I think the point, because he says to him, do you want to be healed? You know what I mean? He's put all of his, let's make that story just really, he puts all of his faith in the pool.
Be still. Breathe. Ready? Mm-hmm. Feel. Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There you go. Whoa. Woo-hoo.
Mm.
Woo-hoo. Just breathe, breathe. Just stay with it. Stay with it. Woo-hoo.
I have to
Don't-
stick this out.
Nah, shush. Just stay in there. Stay there, right there. Breathe. That happen. Let it happen. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Oh, man. So much love. So much love. It's hard to feel it, isn't it? It's hard to let that much love in. Oh, man. I have no man to put me in the pool.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm crying.
He just looks at him. And he says, "Do you want to be healed?"
But look at the power in that story. Look at that right then.
Yeah.
Look what's contained in that story. And then all of a sudden it's unlocked.
Yeah.
The power of love is contained in it. But you can read, like, turn that time zone on its end and look at it now. That's now for you. That's now for you.
Exactly. Oh.
The gratitude, I can feel it. It's like, oh, it's so.
Oh.
The love, the love.
Oh. Oh. Oh, man.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Heidi, you got to go read you got to Mary. Dig into it. Dig into it. Sit with it. Let it affect you. See that whole thing going on with Tina? With the guy at the pool? Same for you, Mary. I don't know which Mary it is now that I'm looking at it, but I know it's there. There's a catalyst, there's a trigger, there's something, there's a mechanism. It's just like all of a sudden a piece of the prophecy unfolds. It becomes living in me. It becomes real in me. It becomes active and activated. And a great healing comes forth. A beautiful moment, a beautiful opportunity to join with my brother. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Everything's just energy. Everything is energy, light. It's not about the story. It's not about the body or the prophecy or any of those things. Those things are a means to an end. And along the way, there are these little things that get unlocked, unlocked, unlocked. Oh, man. It's like it's just bubbling up. You can feel it. It's just bubbling up. This gratitude and joy and love. That guy that had laid there for 12 years waiting for someone to come along, you know, it's like that much gratitude, that much joy, that much happiness, that much love given and received in that moment. This moment, the only moment there is. Bear thy burden upon me, Lord. I will carry the yoke, for your burden is light. Yoke means to join together. I probably got that one wrong too, but the sentiment's there.
You did.
I know.
You got the sentiment.
I never got to this point being a biblical scholar.
I'm not even like, that's not even my jam. Like, I wasn't raised with the Bible.
I've read it like cover to cover twice.
This is heavy, my burden is light, something like
And
that.
I know, like 25 years ago. I haven't picked it up since I did the course. And like the New Testament, I've read it, this little book, I've read it so many times over and over, just in parts here and parts there. And I think I never remember any of the thing accurate. I get the vibe. That's it. Vibe of it. Oh, I get it. It's faith. Beautiful. So I want to tell you a little story. There's another association in my dreaming that presented me with an opportunity to join in a recognition of prophecy fulfillment or story fulfillment or divine occurrence in me that she's in America too. And it's like we had a meeting, like we had a thing meeting like this where we're on our phones doing a wasn't a Zoom, it was some other, might have been WhatsApp or something, one of those things anyway. And I didn't really know much about her background or her story, but it was given to me to tell her that there's a church down the road from her with a white roof. I had no clue whether there was or there wasn't. And I said to her, there's a church down the road with a white roof. You have to go to that church. I didn't know why. It's just, I just got it to tell her that. And she said, there's no church with a white roof. Right? She said, there's a church down the road, but there's no church with a white roof. And then the penny drops and she goes, oh, wait a minute, it's snowing. The roof is white. And the following Sunday when they had service, she went to the church and she met somebody, and in simply being willing to follow the direction or to include that in as part of her own thing, it unlocked a sequence of events that took her from the situation in her life that she was in. She never ended up going to the church. Like, she didn't become an attendee at the church, but she just followed the instruction, met someone, something happened, something was unlocked that allowed the next part of the journey to begin, right? It was essential for that unlocking to happen in that meeting at that church with that person, because what it brought about enabled her to perceive something greater than the sum of the parts in her own association in the kingdom of God, that brought forth the next door to open, the next thing to open. Like the fly became apparent, and like, I'll open that door, right? And now she's in a process of expressing her love of God through the course, through music, right? Which is just steamrolling. It's being added, like, Tina, what is that thing, 10,000 fold or something? What you give to God will come back to you 100-fold, 10,000, whatever the thing, right? So another biblical reference I'll get wrong. But she's now being offered a recording situation with a contract and a percentage, like never having dreamed of it ever, purely because one thing she said yes to, one thing she let in, and rather than question it, doubt it, and just look at it as, oh, that's some guy told me to go down to that church down the road with the white roof, she actually went and did it. And something led to the next thing, to the next thing. That fly could have come around for thousands of years before she finally went and did it, right? But because we're reading the course and we're learning to ask, we're learning to go within and to have things be explained to us, it becomes a lot more apparent how devious it is in our own nature that we can sort of glance off these things that seem particularly just like, maybe it's not really anything there for me. Maybe we don't even think that there's anything there for us. It doesn't even enter our awareness because we're dealing with stuff that's fundamentally coming from an unknown or unremembered avenue of expression. I don't remember the love of God, but I remember it in part as I'm willing to say yes to the next thing that shows up. How that is, whatever that is, whether that's a biblical reference or a reference that I understand in my own thing right here and now, it doesn't matter. Time isn't this way. It's, look at it this way. It's all at once. It's happening now. How that shows up is going to be in the best way for me to be able to recognize it in me. If I have an association with it, it'll show up in a way that I can recognize. If it showed up in a way that I couldn't recognize, what's the point? I would just be going around and around and around forever and not really have one of those moments where the light bulb goes on. Aha. Ooh. I've been reading a book about Jesus and the disciples and whatever, and then all of a sudden, I have an experience of something that relates to that directly. Ooh, let me pay attention. Right? It's not just something that happened to you in the past. It's not just something that happened to you for no reason. Explore it, go into it, embody it, ask for guidance regarding it. Look at it more sincerely, with deeper integrity. Feel it. Let it affect you. Let it affect you. Let all of that repressed energy, that dark, miscreative energy, that catalyst is waiting to release, let it be released. What do you got to lose? Nothing. You got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. So what did happen, Heidi? I'm just being a sticky beak now.
What do you mean?
What did happen this week? Was there anything out of sequence? Was there anything?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
What-
No, the more you were talking, actually, like I had a moment, it was actually just a couple days ago that like I've been just feeling so heavy, like waking up, just a lot of anxiety and a lot of heaviness, especially like just in my day. And like I used to just get up and do my lesson and give myself time and like hours before work and then get ready and go whatever. And I wasn't doing that. But I did have one day, it was like just 2 days ago, and I woke up and I felt a sense of like this welling of anxiety came up. And but it wasn't anxiety. All of a sudden it wasn't anxiety. I thought to myself, I'm like, what is this feeling? And why am I calling it anxiety? Because
Good.
it kind of feels like excitement, which kind of feels like joy. There was this weird shift. I don't even know how
Yep.
to and I'm like, but it was like it's the same, right? And I'm like, and that feeling of being like kind of just like heavy and stuck all of a sudden sort of shifted into this feeling of being like swaddled. Like I don't know, like just like comfort, like I'm so protected and cared for. I sat in this like,
Hear what you're saying?
yeah.
Can you feel what you're saying?
It rocked my, it's rocked my world actually, like last couple days. It felt very I'm like, oh, that's a shift in perspective, right? Like I had a bubble come up in my throat, like, like that's like that frog, like the
Yep.
frog in your throat. And it sounded
Yep.
like a giggle.
Yep.
And I'm
Good.
like, oh, that was my inner child. Like straight up, I'm like, I think my mind's going crazy.
It was
Because that's not how I wake up. I don't wake up in that kind of mindset.
Right.
But and it was that Sunday, and I really wanted to come to the meeting. And honestly, and then I'm like, I don't know what they did in their meeting at 1 a.m. but there's some healing that's been happening. It was,
All right, stop for a second.
yeah, I don't even want to like keep going into it because it's not worth
Ready?
it. Yeah.
Do this with me. Do this with me. Close your eyes. I want you to picture the Mother Mary in your mind. Picture the Mother Mary, heavy in pregnancy. Heavy in pregnancy. Okay. What are those feelings?
What the fuck did I get myself into?
Feeling stuck, feeling anxious, feeling at the same time excited. Why am I calling it anxiety? Feeling swaddled.
Mm-hmm.
That's your words.
Mm-hmm.
Now put yourself there. Go there totally. Put yourself there.
Mm.
Look at that woman. Look at that woman. Feel it. Soul sister, soul self, divine activator in the path of your own journey of that same self-birth. That's what you're connecting with. There's nothing else going on. There's nothing else going on. You can call it a dream and an illusion and whatever. It doesn't mean anything other than what you want to have it mean. But look at it as part of a gift. It's like Einstein said everything's either a miracle or it's not a miracle. Was it Einstein? Tina said, oh, I got that one right. There's two ways to look at life, as if it's a miracle or as if nothing's a miracle. Right? Look at the miraculous, perceive the miraculous, become miracle-minded. It's not just a story about a woman 2,000 years ago. It's your story now. It's the active embodiment of that story in you. You're being offered a connection with it. That's what I would see. What you see is up to you. Maybe I'm way off. I have no idea. Let it in. Let it in. It's a calling. It's a calling for more, a calling to go forward, a calling to God, a calling to love. This is all a call to love. Sometimes it just takes a specific kind of form, and it takes a kind of a referential form, like a divine form. It's like, why do people see apparitions and visions and have prophecies? And why do people have an incredible ability to foresee the future, or visionaries, and, you know, all of these things that are the gifts of the Holy Spirit that it talks about in the New Testament? Why do these things come upon people? Why do people become healers and teachers? Because it's a part of what it is that's on your path in the birth of the Christ in you, a part that you are to embody and to fulfill and to include in and to accept. And that'll unlock in you everything that it needs to unlock in you. That'll just reveal, it's like, man, I have no man to put me in the pool. Stay in it. Stay there. Look at the beautiful association that it has. Look at the incredible flower that is going to open. Like, there is an enriching, there is a maturing, there is a divine coming to in all of this. It's the most beautiful story ever told. It is the most beautiful story ever told. The salvation of mankind. This is your telling now. This is your story now. It's your prophecy. It's your path. It's your act. Embody it. Embrace it. Ask for guidance with it. Be fully immersed in it. Just because it doesn't look like mud dwellings and adobe huts 2,000 years ago doesn't mean that it's not the same story. It is. It's just energy. You've asked for a miracle. It's coming. It's making itself known. It's presenting the way, the truth, and the life to you so you can become revelation ready, so you can become miracle minded. This is a real thing. It's more real than the food you put in your mouth. Life is thought. Everything is just mind. Forget what you see out there in the pictures, in the things that seem to move and change. That's nothing. That only has the meaning I give it, which is really, what is that? Let it be given. Let it be divine. Let it represent the story of the fulfillment of the prophecy in me. That's all I'm interested in. Let me be the witness to the truth in that today, in me. What else is there? What else do you want? What more could you possibly wish for, hope for? I'm walking with Christ. I'm walking with the Messiah through my own particular framework, through my own particular story, association after association after association. It's being revealed and shown and presented again and again and again in ways that I can come to learn about, recognize, and integrate. I'm becoming revelation ready. You're not going to get an experience that you can't handle. You're not going to get something out there that you're not ready for. You've got to be made ready. You've got to earn this. It's like, I'm walking with Jesus all the way. When he turns around and says, go back to your homes, I'm not going back to my home. I don't care if I have to straggle along behind the disciples. I don't care what the fuck. I'm not going back to my home. They all turned away and went back to their homes. Not me. I'm included somewhere in this and I know it. I'm staying with my man. I'm staying with Jesus. Even if he turns around again and I'm the only one following, he says, go back to your home. You only want the miracles. You don't want to hear what I'm saying. You only just want the free food, the free fish and the bread. You only want me to heal you of your problems. Like, that'd be nice, but I'm not going home. I'm staying put. I'm on the path, and that's where it's at. There is nothing else that it's at. Let's celebrate. Let's enjoy walking in those footsteps. Yeah. You got to let yourself get a bit loose with it. You know, it's got to be. You got to feel it.